Greetings, initiates. Jedediah Thomas, Mind Master here. Today, I wanted to give a break from the actual theory behind what I do and actually map out the roadmap for you to be healed when you're working with me. Like and subscribe on the channel for more content about the mind, the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, traumas, limiting beliefs, motivation, and now everything about the soul and the spiritual world as well. Now, if you look at in front of you here, we have the model of the mind, which is basically the model that I created about a year ago, just over a year, just under a year ago, however long it's been, just over a year, I believe. And basically, this has allowed me to solve problems with my clients that nobody else on the planet has been able to solve. And my clients have been to psychologists, psychiatrists, they've tried woo-woo methodology, they've done NLP or neuro-linguistic programming, they've tried, Marissa Peer, RRT, they've tried, RTT, that's hers, and then the other one, the RRT is from someone else. They've tried medicine, they've tried basically everything on the planet to be fixed, and nothing worked for them until they came to me. And it was this model that allowed me to work on them. And back when the world was a lot simpler, back when I didn't account for all of these kind of spiritual things that I'm delving into now, this was a very convenient model, and it still holds up today, assuming that you just have traumas and you just have limiting beliefs, and you don't have any of some of this more sinister stuff that I'll go into in a couple of minutes. So basically, we can start by just ripping off the trauma layer, right? It's very easy to remove a specific trauma. It takes about 5-10 minutes. Basically, 100% success rate in actually being able to do that when I'm actually able to get in there and do a trauma shift, right? So very, very easy process. My clients feel immediate relief from that specific incident. And then over the next few days, maybe a week or two, as their mind kind of unravels things, then the healing just starts to compound from there. And then once we've removed the traumas, it's very easy to then just go and knock out the limiting beliefs, which are basically just bad code, right? You could have limiting beliefs, absent beliefs, wrong beliefs, and I can just go in there and fix that. And then when I do that, it creates basically a domino effect. It fixes your emotions immediately, changes your thoughts immediately, your actions change immediately, and then that allows you to build habits, which then affect your lifestyle. Now, the issue here is that as I'm starting to account for some of the more spiritual stuff, and as I'm seeing more of these spiritual problems in people, this model has to change just a little bit in terms of the order in which I do things. Now, this model is still absolutely true, right, in terms of the mind, but there's a lot more stuff going on. So let me pull up the other chart here, and I'll kind of walk through the order that things need to be done for, the most effective work in the right order without, just going in circles, basically. Okay, now you're seeing the updated model of reality with all of these other problems added onto it. And that includes some of the more, shall we say, rare mind issues, such as multiple personalities, and then also some of the spiritual issues as well, which I'll kind of talk about. Now, assuming that somebody is open to the energies that I'm working with, like open to a higher power, open to, basically the divine plan, a higher purpose. I've seen basically 99 out of 100 are like that, right? So it's extremely rare that someone is not like that. So I'll kind of touch on that after a few minutes. But let's say, just say like a normal person comes to me and they're kind of, they're not, I'm not saying that they have to believe in a god or gods or anything like that, or practice any kind of spiritual stuff. It's a matter of having the right faculties open, which is in your chakras, which I'll kind of save that towards later in the video, because it does kind of add a lot of complication that most people are not going to run into. Now, for basically everyone, I'm still going to start removing their trauma, right? Because it's so easy for me to just go in and remove a trauma. It takes 5 minutes. And how many traumas you have is really dependent on your life, your experiences that you've had, and also kind of your beliefs about life, which is determined whether you've been traumatized or not to begin with, right? So you could have a couple of traumas, you could have 20 or 30 traumas, you could have more than 100 traumas. There's no real way to know how many you have. Obviously, if you come from a complex abusive background, child abuse, things of that nature, or possibly you were in the military, you might have a higher level of number of traumas than most people. And each one takes 5-10 minutes to get through. So it's just a matter of time before we end up knocking all of them out, basically. So once we get through that, instead of going right to working on beliefs, I actually look for something else now. And the thing that I look for next is going to be multiple personalities. And the reason for that is because when you have multiple personalities, and to some degree non-personality segmenting, what it means is that you don't just have one hard drive that you're operating from, right? You're actually operating from 2 or more hard drives, and your brain actually stores memories, it stores codes in different places in your mind that are not accessible from other places, right? It's a complete block off of information. So in the case that you're so messed up that you have other personalities, what I would do is I would go in and resolve those personalities. That's also a very quick process, depending on the personality. Some are easier to work with, some are more difficult to work with. But the actual, say, removing of the personality or disintegrating of it or reintegrating of it, depending on how you want to look at it, doesn't actually take long at all once I've established basically the case for why that personality should reintegrate, right? And that sounds a little bit complicated, so let me explain that. A lot of the reason for having multiple personalities is that you have experienced a lot of trauma or these other problems in your life. Maybe you have had demons attack you. Maybe you have had, bad beliefs of the world. And reality is so different from what your mind can accept. It just like creates an entirely new you that now processes this reality instead of your main personality, right? And so by starting with trauma first, by getting rid of that, we get rid of basically most of the evidence for why that other personality needs to exist or feels like it needs to exist to protect you, right? And so basically, it's not an enemy. It's not, something that is opposed to you theoretically. It's trying to protect you, but the logic of the subconscious is pretty dumb compared to what it should be or what we think it should be. And so its way of protecting you often ends up hurting you more than it helps you, but it doesn't realize that. So I go in and I actually resolve these multiple personalities, and I'm able to do that because all of the pain, all of the trauma that made that personality necessary to begin with is no longer there. There's no longer a reason for it to exist to protect the main personality, right? Like it's just pointless at that time. So it feels like it can give up control to the main personality and actually reintegrate, right? So I've been able to do 2 of those, two multiple personalities. And I'll make another video about that with some kind of like the updates in theory about why that happens and different stuff about that. But just know that if you're so messed up that you have multiple personalities, that's the next thing I would look for after fixing most or all of your traumas. Now, the next thing that we look at is we start working on beliefs, okay? So these are going to be your way of thinking about the world, your way of seeing the world, right? And the reason why I don't just do that next after trauma is because when you have multiple hard drives, when I your mind with changing your beliefs, some of that coding actually goes to one personality and some of that coding goes to another personality. And so sometimes you're actually operating from that code and sometimes you're not. So it gets kind of dicey when you have half of a program written on one hard drive and you have half of a program written on another hard drive. or however that breaks down, even though the code should theoretically work, it's just not all in the same place. But once I've reintegrated those other personalities, then it's very easy for me to start working with you on your beliefs. Now, most of the time, that's going to resolve pretty much all of your problems, right? Because, we're still talking about the mind here, right? And as I've said, basically everything boils down to traumas and beliefs. And you could say that multiple personalities are beliefs become so self-aware and so sentient that they've created a new you as a result of trauma, right? So it still goes down to, limiting beliefs, still goes down to trauma. It's just a different way they kind of manifest, if that makes sense. But it's all still part of the mind, and it still goes back to trauma's limiting beliefs. It's just a different way of working with it than I normally would, right? So I've dealt with that. Once, like, we've dealt with, you don't have any pain from traumas anymore, your beliefs are actually working correctly, then it's a matter of time of just looking at what is actually happening in the real world. You're putting in the effort, you're doing the right actions, you're doing the right things, you feel good, you feel like you're in alignment, and for some reason you have bad luck, or things are not working out for you, or you're hitting your head against a wall. There's some real world negative feedback that there's no real reason for that to be there. That's when I would start actually looking at demons and imprints, right? And I don't jump to the conclusion that like everyone has a demon and everyone's possessed and all of that. That's just not helpful. And it's the same thing with imprints. I don't know how common either one is, but I would assume that the imprints are going to be more common. So I would look at that first, right? So we start actually purifying your lens, basically, because when you have light pass through a lens, if you have, if it's colored, or if there's like a layer of something on it, the light doesn't really come through as good as it should. And so that's where I would start to clear off those imprints that's actually miscoloring, the light that you're sending and receiving. And that's a that's a much bigger topic for another day. But just understand that part of the way that I can diagnose imprints, and then later on demons, is that I actually look at what your results are in the real world. If everything is good and things are happening, you're probably good to go. But if there's some reason why you're not having success, even though there's every logical reason why you should, there's something else going on beneath the surface, and it's probably going to be imprints or demons. I've done a video on imprints. I've done a video on demons, so I don't want to belabor, what those are, or any of that. So if you're interested in that, just go ahead and, take a look at those videos. Now, assuming that we have removed your traumas, we have reintegrated your any multiple personalities, we've fixed all of your beliefs about the world, right, and about the universe, and we've removed all of your imprints and all of your demons, you're basically good to go, depending on how kind of deep down the rabbit hole you want to go. To actually be fully healed, you actually do need to be in alignment with God or source or the universe or whatever. And that's a whole series of topics there. If you're interested in that, I have a group for that, the Initiates and the Mysteries of the Mind. Check that out, and I'll add you, because that's what we're going over there. Like that's the whole point of that group. But okay, so that's just, let's say, okay, so that's your healing journey, right? And once you fixed all of that, you're healed. You're healed more than basically any other person has ever been on the planet, except for a very small handful of people, and those people are basically the people that I've worked on, right? So you are at that point more healed than any guru or saint or holy man or enlightened person or whatever you want to call it. You are essentially superhuman at that point. If I want to use that term, you are head and shoulders above the rest of humanity, absolutely guaranteed. You're nothing like what you were before, and you're nothing like basically anyone around you, because nothing can hurt you anymore. So that's kind of like the healing journey for that. Now let me add in all of this other stuff that's like really complicated that kind of makes things a little bit more difficult to understand. Now, the only time I've ever run into an issue with healing people is basically one, when they were cut off from God, or two, when their chakras were messed up. So prior to a few weeks ago, I didn't really delve into the chakra stuff. I didn't really know too much about them, and I didn't really know how they fit into the overall model. But now I know how they work, and they're actually integral to actually being in alignment with God. So if your chakras are messed up, then your access to the divine energies that you need to access for me to heal you are actually cut off. So we would be doing kind of more of a intensive chakral healing process, which is going to be different for each person because each chakra does a different thing. But basically, we would do whatever is necessary to get those chakras in balance so that you're now open to that energy so that you can be healed, right? And then the other thing, which I don't have a fix for just yet, which I'm working on, so stay tuned for that, is this thing I call non-personality segmenting, right? Now, this is where you have a part of your hard drive that's cut off, and it's not sentient or self-aware enough to be a multiple personality. It's like literally just part of your memory is not there, or part of your perception of a certain time period is simply gone. Like you can't access it. And I've tried different things to work with it. I haven't found an answer just yet. I actually went into a hypnosis appointment, so I actually got hypnotized because I was trying to access a period of my life that had this non-personality segmenting. I had some amnesia for a couple of years, and the hypnosis was absolutely useless, completely worthless, didn't help me get that at all, right? And my normal tools for actually fixing multiple personalities or this segmenting don't work because you can't reason with this code, right? I can explain why it happens, which is that there's a part of your mind that's trying to protect you from remembering something because the memory of that challenges your model of reality. And if that model of reality is challenged, then you no longer know who you are anymore. So that's the why behind it. But I'm still working on how to figure out how to fix it. So, if you're interested in that, or if you have amnesia or something like that, just stay tuned. Hypnosis is absolutely not the solution for that, but I will find a way to fix it. So anyways, basically what I've seen is that non-personality segmenting somehow associates with problems in your chakras, right? So what we have here is proof that these are basically somehow related, right? And that's why I put them together here in the soul body interface, because I don't know which causes the problem and which is the symptom of the problem, but they are absolutely interconnected somehow, right? So as I keep working with chakras, as I keep working with that, I'll figure out how to fix all of that, which is kind of a complicated topic because nobody really understands that there is a soul body interface to begin with. So I'm basically the only person that has the knowledge to be able to approach that. But I will figure out eventually. It's just a matter of time. So basically, as long as your chakras are working fine, right, then I can heal you, right? That's basically the point of everything. Because if I can do trauma shifting on you, I can get rid of all of this stuff, and it's just a matter of knocking down the dominoes one by one by one by one, and eventually you're fixed. And if you have something wrong with your chakras, I'm still working on how to resolve that. I've made more progress in a month than say like the entire Hindu religion has in thousands of years. So, go figure. Just give me a couple more months. I'll have it sorted out. But anyways, this is getting to be another long video. I've just been like making a lot of long videos lately. I don't know why. I usually try and start for like the 10-minute mark, 10, 12 minutes. And like the stuff that I'm talking about is just so vast and so critical that I just need more time to go over it. It's like 10 minutes is not enough at all. But anyways, let me summarize this just so you have a roadmap of the order of things, right? Now, this is assuming that your chakras are in whack. So we would do chakras first, then we would do multiple personalities second, and then we would deal with beliefs third, right? All of those, limiting, false, and absent. And then 4, we would look at imprints. And then 5, we would look at demons, right? And looking at getting rid of those. And the reason why I don't start with demons or imprints, even if you are possessed, is because, yes, I can still get rid of the demons, even though you have trauma, but you're probably psychologically weak to the point where the demon would just relatch onto you. So even in that case, it's still important to start with trauma, even if you are possessed. Okay, so there's that, right? And then you have kind of these chakras, which are like still working on chakras, still working on the non-personality segmenting, right? And then these two things here, if you're open to that kind of thing, theoretically could and should be done first. And that's why I started, my group, the Initiates of the Mysteries of the Mind, because the more you are in alignment with your purpose, the more you can interact with the divine, the source, the higher power. You don't necessarily have to communicate with it and talk with it like I do, but just being open to it allows you to be open to all of these other layers of healing. Because if you absolutely think that it's impossible that some kind of higher power exists, you're not going to get rid of your demons because there's no reason for you to think that you have them. You know what I mean? So it's like all of this really falls into place once you're in alignment with that energy source that I'm using to heal you. And I would say, like I said, 99 out of 100 people fall into that category. 1 out of 100 has these other problems with chakras and non-personality segmenting, which I'm still working on figuring out how to fix. And the reason why it's taking me longer to figure out how to fix it is because it's so rare. Like I only have like one data point to figure it out, which is not enough to draw a pattern, right? So again, I know this this video is very long. Thank you for watching this long. Please stay tuned on the channel for more content. Like and subscribe and comment if you need to get a hold of me, or just find me on my profile on Facebook below. All right. Thanks. Bye.